Hi, my name's TC Fuller, and I'm the old gray man. Yeah, I've had an interest for a while now, looking on the internet as to the concept of the gray man. It has to do with a lot of conversations I've had with fellow colleagues and old work colleagues and what have you, and some of the people that I hang out with now. And it occurs to me that there's a lot of folks chiming in about what the gray man is and the gray man concept is. Not a lot of them seem to have a lot of experience with actually being a gray man, actually doing it and living it professionally. And it seemed like there's a vast array of folks chiming in and talking about it, and the quality of that input is it varies. There's people that seem to know what they're talking about, people that don't seem to know what they're talking about. It seemed like an underserved section of the internet, which is weird these days, right? Because everything seems to be so saturated. And I suppose there is some level of saturation here. But I thought there might be room for me to chime in as well, for me to talk about it, having had some life experience around this that may prove helpful for people that are researching the idea of being a gray man and going through life in a low-profile fashion. So I thought I would toss my hat in the ring, and here we are. So first of all, what are we talking about with the concept of the gray man and going gray? It's a common term. I hear it used quite a bit in certain circles, sort of the tactical circles and the prepper circles. And we'll come to talk about that later on. But that term seems to be one that gets used a lot, and people sort of use it knowingly, but it's very nebulous, right? Not really well defined in a lot of areas. And it has sort of an air of an insider mystique, going gray. What does that mean? You're going to be a real true master in order to pull that off. I think that's gilding the lily to a certain degree. So what are we talking about? A person who's gray, a going gray person, the common sort of definition around what I will be talking about at least, is, first of all, it's gender neutral, right? A gray man is a gender neutral thing, so please don't get your knickers in a bunch over the use of the words gray man. But it's a person who doesn't draw attention to themselves, right? They don't stand out in a crowd. They try to be unremarkable and unnoticed. They're kind of gray because they blend in, right? They just sort of fade into the background. They just don't pick up anybody's attention. They're not on their radar. And before you say anything, I do understand that there's a certain degree of irony involved in doing an internet video channel and website and trying to popularize the concept of being unnoticed. I get that. That's kind of funny, I thought. Anyhow, so that's what we're talking about. We're talking about going gray, right? Low profile, under the radar, unnoticed, unremarked upon. But why would you want to do that? If you're a person that goes through the world prepared to deal with life's tribulations and trials, what's the benefit of being a gray man? To my mind, simply put, it preserves your options, right? It allows you to stay off of people's radar, to stay out of their notice. And that includes bad actors, right? People with ill intent, which seemingly there are more and more of all the time, or at least maybe not more of, but certainly more brazen folks these days, if the news is to be believed. And if they notice you and they have ill intent, then you start finding yourself in a position where your opponent gets the initiative, where your opponent gets to choose sort of the time and the place for them to do what they're after, right? Whatever it is they want to do. If you go gray, you preserve that, right? You preserve the ability to choose when and how to react. And that's what you want to do, right? Because the bad actor, the criminal, a violent criminal, is really looking to reduce your options to one, right? Submission to whatever it is they want to do. Whether it's take your sneakers or kill you, beat you over the head with a brick, or whatever other agenda they're trying to push forward. We want to reserve the right to choose as long as we can if we're trying to be a gray man. And that's really sort of what we're talking about here and where we're going with all this. The best way to avoid the problem with a bad guy, obviously, is to just avoid it, right? Don't be involved. I used to tell people when I was training for the federal government, if you know there's going to be a violent fight, try to be at the dentist or some other place. Don't try to be there, which is an oversimplification. But it does speak to the fact that you want to avoid conflict where you can. Going gray Being a gray man helps keep that option open as long as possible. I recognize that sometimes you won't have the option that'll be sort of a general attack, or you'll just be randomly selected. We can talk about that as well. But if you've gone gray and you are forced to act, or you choose to act, and whatever that act is, run away, run forward, attack, defend, call for help, fall down on the ground, froth at the mouth, whatever you choose to do, by having been gray up to that moment, it preserves the element of surprise. And surprise is absolutely a force multiplier in any tactical situation. So it's something to be kept in your back pocket. It's a tool in your toolbox, as the saying goes. Going gray really is a simple concept, right? It's a simple thing to define. It's not always easy to put into practice, right? So it's simple but not easy, if that makes sense. It does take some dedication. It takes some decision making up front, but after that it can be relatively painless. It takes some mindset and some other decisions, but they're likely decisions between actions you were going to take anyhow, or things you were going to carry or buy or whatnot anyhow. It's just choosing the lower profile of the two. As we go along in this channel, we will kind of discuss more specifics. This being my introductory video, I kind of want to do a wave top view and kind of hit the high points and sort of what we're going to talk about later on, so you can make a decision as to whether or not you want to hang out here and hear what I have to say, or if you want to go Netflix and chill. Really, when it comes to being gray, though, you just have to decide to do it. Once you make the decision, everything else will flow a lot easier. So first of all, you try to understand the term, right? And if that does appeal to your chosen way of going through the world, well, what do you do then? Well, from our perspective here at the Old Gray Man, there are really three main components of going gray. One, we've already touched on a little bit, is mindset. Figuring out what you're going to do and getting your mind in the right place. Two is your behavior, how you're going to act. And three is your appearance, how you look, right? How you look, and that encompasses everything, not just your face, your clothes, your shoes, your hat, your accent, the way you behave in terms of movement. And again, we'll talk a lot more about the specifics. And behavior and appearance, by the way, that line can get a little blurry, as I think you'll see as we go along. As I said before, though, mindset is very important. You really have to decide, am I going to do this? Am I not going to do this? If you're not going to do it, great, good for you. Go with God. All the best. If you are going to do it, then you got to figure out how far down that hole you want to go. And you can go pretty far, let's be honest. And there's some folks that you may know who already have gone pretty far down that hole. More power to them. My perspective is you don't have to be a hermit to be a gray person, right? You're living your life. You are a gray man. So there will be some level of notice to you. People will know you. You're going to know your neighbors. The idea here is not to, dig into a bunker and bury yourself in camouflage and, only scurry out at night to secure sustenance. That's not the point here. What we really want to do is live our best life. Be prepared for life's vagaries, but just not advertise it. But you need information to make an informed decision, right? Seems part and parcel. And that's what I'm going to try and do here. Is I'm going to try and provide you with some information based on knowledge, training, experience that I've had, a lot of which has come at the expense of the federal government and some fairly bad actors here and there. I think in my next video we'll get into more of sort of my past and really why you should care what I have to say, so you can kind of make a decision how much more you want to spend here, and I hope it ends up being a bit. The next thing up to bat is behavior. Right? And remember, your behavior provides an observer information. Right? If somebody's watching you, somebody's seeing you, somebody glances at you, how you're behaving and how you're appearing does provide the person who's looking at you with some level of information about you. So we want to control that to the degree we can. Great way to put it is, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, right? You want to blend with the crowd? Act like the crowd. Until it's time to not act like the crowd, right? And again, that preserves options, and it allows you the choice of when and if to act and how to act. Another good point to remember in all this is to obey the law. If you're trying to fly under the radar, don't break the law, right? I refer you to an old Chris Rock video on the subject if you're sort of into that sort of thing. If you don't obey the law, you break the law, you tend to attract attention, not just to the people around you, but sometimes law enforcement. And getting buckled up and put in handcuffs and stuffed in the back of a cruiser is a surefire way to draw attention, not just of the law enforcement types, but the people in the crowds around you. But if you really want to blend, you really want to stay below the radar in a crowd or in any kind of a group or public setting, keep your mind engaged, right? You've got to think. You can't just coast through life watching your phone and hoping for the best and relying upon the kindness of strangers. And the last thing I want to talk about in this video, at least, is appearance. I'm just talking about sort of a wave top, like I said before. Going gray is going to impact how you choose to appear, how you choose to dress, right? What you tend to carry. Because let's face it, movement draws the eye. When you're moving through the world, people are going to notice you because you're moving. And they being the observers, will look at what they've noticed. How long they spend looking at you and how much attention they pay to you is a factor of your appearance. Or is affected by your appearance, is probably the better way to put that. And part of what they're doing when they're looking at you is they're making an assessment. Are you a threat? You know, whether it's conscious or not, whether it's intentional or not, people will make that assessment of you right off the bat. Now, what they do with that information can vary from stunned disbelief if you are a threat to an active counterattack, depending on who you are. Maybe you're a victim and this is a predator, and if you're not a threat, then perhaps you've upped your victimhood status. But generally speaking, if you look as though you are not a threat, you're not going to hold people's attention very long. If you don't look bizarre, given the circumstances you're in, you're not going to hold attention for long. Look like you belong. Try to look like you belong. Try to look like a normal part of the scene. Because really, when it comes down to it, your appearance is your urban ghillie suit. Anyhow, this is my first video ever. I imagine it's not that great. I imagine the production values are varied. But I think they'll get better. And I think I've got a lot of really good information that you'll find useful. I really hope you come back and check out the next video. We'll talk the one time I'll really get into sort of me and why you should listen to what I have to say. And then after that, we'll start getting into the meat of the matter. So I hope to see you again. I hope you hit the like and subscribe buttons below, because that is really weird how much that helps. I'm of a generation that remembers when computers didn't exist. But yeah, the like and subscribe buttons are nuts. It's crazy. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed what I had to say tonight. I hope it intrigued you. I hope it hooked you a little bit. And I hope that going forward you'll be safe and stay low. Take care.